So now we are going to make Pista Praline paste. Okay, so I have the pistachios whole and caster sugar, and that's water. So I'm going to add the water into the sugar and heat that and allow the sugar to dissolve and melt fully with the water. After which I'm going to add pistachios, remove it from the fire and allow the sugar syrup to coat on the pistachios, and then put that back on the fire again and allow the sugar that's coated on the pista to caramelize, and then that is going to become a sticky mass. Then I'm going to transfer it into a baking tray lined with silicone mat, or you could use butter paper as well, and allow it to cool down completely, and then that will be ground in the food processor with a small jar or mixie to make the paste. So in between this nuts, any nuts you could use in place of pistas, you could use hazelnuts or almonds or even walnuts to make any nut praline paste. Now when you've made the praline, which is coating the nuts with caramelized sugar, now before making it into a paste, if you are going to use that praline and give textures into your desserts or your cake layers, then you could just chop them into finer pieces. So your nuts will be cooked, it will be really very crispy on the inside with caramelized sugar that will be brittle on the outside, that is going to have a beautiful texture in your desserts. And I'm not going to do that step now, but I am insisting that if you have to have a textured praline, then don't go into the paste making process that we will be doing now in this video. So you could stop at making the caramelized nuts, in this case it is pista, chop and use, or wherever you need them to have a paste, which we are going to use it in one part of the course here. So I will be making the paste also and showing it to you. Okay, so as for the first step, I need the induction stove, adding the sugar, and I am adding water. I need to switch on the stove and put it to low flame. Then allow the sugar to melt. You also need to keep checking the temperature, and the sugar syrup should reach 114 degrees Celsius. Okay, so I'm going to keep checking, and this is a laser thermometer, laser gun. Okay, so you could use any cooking thermometer, but this is more convenient. So I'm going to allow it to melt a bit more and then wait until the temperature goes to 114 degrees Celsius. So that's 87, 92. So it's 114 now. I'm going to remove this out of the stove and add in the pistachios. I'm going to keep mixing and allow the sugar syrup to coat the pistachios. It's going to have a white layer. And the sugar is crystallized, the liquid sugar syrup is now in solid state and it's coated the pistas well. Okay, so with the crystallized sugar coated pistachios, we are going to put it back on the heat. And now allow the sugar to melt and become a caramel. I'm going to keep stirring. I'm going to switch over to a metal spoon. So the crystallized sugar, you can see it's starting to melt again. The sugar is caramelizing now. You need to allow it to melt fully. I'm switching over to a spatula to mix and then allow it to coat. So I'm just taking it out of the pan. You can see it's caramelized and coated the pistas well. Now I need to transfer this on a baking tray that is lined with a silicone mat or butter paper or a parchment paper. And then spread it out and then allow it to cool down completely. And once it cools down, then like I said, there are two ways in using this nuts praline. We could chop them and then use them for textures or grind them into paste. So we make nut praline paste, and that's a pista praline paste. Let me allow it to cool for some time and then let's get ready to grind it to make it into a paste. So the pista praline is cooled down completely. It will be brittle like this, and so I'm just going to break them and add it into a mixer. Okay, so that is the mixie, and I'll have the oil, but I'm not going to grind this and then check the consistency. Only if I need the oil, I'm going to use. So let me check how it looks. So it's still in the powder form. So let me just mix and get everything together. I'm going to beat it again. So it is quite thick, and this will need a little bit of oil to change into a paste. So you need to wait until here to check, depending on the quality of the pistachios that you are using, or any nut for that matter. You need to first grind and then get it here to check if it is going to become a smooth paste by itself, or whether you need to add a little more oil to help it turn into a paste. That will be about a half a teaspoon of oil that's added, and I'm going to grind it again. So you can see the consistency is changed with the help of oil, but then I'm going to scrape down fully and then beat again. So now this needs a little more oil. We add about half a teaspoon at a time. I'm just going to, you can also see the texture is slowly changing, and then it is just coming to a paste. And beat this again. So now this looks good. I'm just going to take it out. So you want to wait until you have a texture and a consistency like this. Okay, a paste that looks like this. I just want to use a spoon. Okay, to check the texture, that you are able to easily scoop. Okay, and this we'll have to transfer into a bowl, and then you could use this because it is not going to be really very hot, but you can store it into another bowl and then keep it and use it later as well. This also can be part of a pre-prep, which you don't have to do it right when you have to make a dessert. You could make it the previous day and then keep it in the fridge, or make it in the morning when you're going to prepare to work on finishing a dessert, maybe in the evening. So a few hours before you want it, you need to keep this ready. So these are components that have to be used in desserts, and they have to be prepared well ahead of time, not very near to when you have to complete a dessert. So we'll be using praline paste in one of a very beautiful recipe and the tart in this course. So this is how you have to be making the pista praline paste, and like I said, you could use any nut for that matter and follow the process to make different nut praline paste that you could use it in a lot of other desserts, where you will be combining your own flavors and then playing around with the knowledge that you get.